Educators from across the state of Kentucky are upset about the changing of the teacher pension plan, with most people thinking that teachers are getting overlooked.
The biggest thing that these changes do is to discourage people from going into this profession.
A lot of teachers, like high school English teacher Lindsay Johnson, thinks that there is an easier solution out there.
It's a broken system, and everyone acknowledges that, but the problem is in how to fix that. And I don't think that punishing teachers or our profession as a whole is the best solution.
Protests at the Capitol in Frankfort have been going on for weeks. With so many teachers using a sick day to go protest, schools have no choice but to close for the day.
I think that finding funding and finding alternate revenue for our state that can be allocated for our pensions, I think that that is a solution that we would be receptive to, and that would be better for the students of the Commonwealth.
For NewsCenter, Drew Spangler.
I'm not saying that these people have done this 100 times, by no means, but I feel confident it wasn't their first rodeo when it comes to illegal drug sales.
Sheriff Matt Sparks said him and his staff have been watching the dealers for weeks, building the full investigation for nearly a month.
Normally it takes a little longer, but we got some good information. We got some good informants working for us, working with us.
Sheriff Sparks says police found almost 10 pounds of medical marijuana, over 1,000 Xanax pills, and more than 5,000 in cash. 3 handguns were also found on the scene.
Being a sheriff in this county for years, being the former chief of police at Morehead State University, that campus is in my opinion, the safest campus in the state of Kentucky, and I put it in the top 10 anywhere in the country. But you're always going to have drugs and people doing illegal activities on any campus.
The 3 Morehead students arrested in the raid were here on visa from Saudi Arabia. There were also 2 other dealers arrested from Mason County that made the trip to deliver the marijuana to the MSU students.
We're always after the big fish. Right. You know, where are you getting it from? So we always give people that opportunity, regardless of what crime, drug-related crime. I mean, you're always looking for that that supplier, that person.
Sheriff Sparks says he thinks deportation will be a part of the punishment for the students. For NewsCenter, Drew Spangler.
As you probably know, a small number of counties in our state are dealing with a hepatitis A outbreak.
With the hepatitis A outbreak affecting 21 counties across the Commonwealth, state health leaders are giving warning and setting the record straight about the disease.
The risk of contracting hepatitis A is greatest in those with risk factors for the disease, which in this outbreak include homelessness and drug abuse. While there are no travel restrictions, the CDC does recommend vaccination for children, folks with risk factors, and those living in an outbreak area who wish to be protected.
Health officials say the best way to stop the spread of hepatitis A is to simply wash your hands. There have been 370 cases of hepatitis A in Kentucky since November. Of that affected, 256 have been hospitalized and 3 have died. There has also been misleading information saying that it's unsafe to travel to and from Kentucky, including attending one of Kentucky's biggest events.
They're all in line. They're off in the Kentucky Derby.
Let me say that it is safe to travel to Kentucky, and it is safe to attend the Kentucky Derby.
For NewsCenter, Drew Spangler.
I mean, pretty much just the old saying, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Morehead is adopting a new general education program. The new system is far more complex than the system we currently have. Some students question replacing the current system.
Yeah, I just think if you're paying that money to go to school here, you shouldn't have to be limited to the general education classes you take. I think you should be able to choose whatever general education class you'd like to take, because different students have different interests.
A meeting was held on Tuesday explaining the new proposal.
First goal is that we should develop students' ability to reason and think critically. Second goal then is that we should develop their familiarity with major areas of study. We want big picture courses. Goal 3 then, we wanted to cultivate students' appreciation of global cultures. ability to engage in ethical reasoning.
The Lux program is based on 3 blocks: foundation, knowledge, and human community.
And this is the current general education system here at Morehead State. You have to have 2 math, 2 humanities, 2 science, 2 English, a FYS, and a capstone. But that will soon be a thing of the past. And this is the Lux program. Think of it as building blocks. You have 1 writing, 1 math, 1 communications, 2 natural science, 1 social science, and 1 art and humanities, 1 written comms, 1 global cultures, 1 social justice. For the general education program in Morehead State, things will be changing. For NewsCenter, Drew Spangler.
Come into the library. Let us help you do your research.
For some, finals week is a dreadful and stressful time, but the staff at the library has some advice to get past finals.
Make sure that you've got a clear idea of what your professor is wanting you to do. Have a clear idea of the paper. If anytime they get stuck, there's always someone at the research help desk, and we certainly will try to help them in any way we can.
And for those looking to have some fun in a usually stressful place,
We've got a lot of things here that they can use to de-stress themselves. We've got coloring books, we have puzzles, we have a tabletop foosball. We also have a meditation area that's going to be in our classroom 201 up on the 2nd floor, and there will be real soft lighting and soft music, and they can meditate for a little bit because you need to take a lot of breaks.
and some who are more serious.
They can also set up a one-on-one session with us, and it can be an hour or 2 hours, however long the student needs it.
And when asked what stumbles students most on finals week,
They want to try to cram it all in at one time. Procrastination. So try to get on it this week. Start this week.
for NewsCenter, Drew Spangler.
We're very close, so they could have done it anytime afterwards.
Empty shelves that haven't been stocked for weeks. With finals approaching fast, art students say they wish the university would have held off on the renovation to the bookstore until the summer, or just simply made more room.
If MSU really feels like students are a priority, including art students, then they would have taken out useless things like baseball caps, moved them together, hoodies, and made more room for art students to actually have supplies.
With renovations stretching out until late April or early May, not having art supplies in the bookstore could empty some students' pockets.
Coming from an art major, this sucks because if they plan to take out anything, that's where I get all of my art supplies because I don't really have a lot of money. So I can't go out to an actual art store where it's like sometimes it's more expensive, and just the fact that I don't have that money outside of the school would make it a lot harder on me.
It's only inconvenience to us. I don't know why they picked us. Maybe we were just lower priority.
We've reached out to bookstore officials who didn't want to answer questions. For NewsCenter, Drew Spangler. A $66.5 million expansion that creates 220 jobs. That's what Independent Stave Company is adding to their plant here in Morehead. The over 100-year-old company owns 7 stave mills that produce barrels for breweries, wineries, and distilleries in over 40 countries.
Well, anytime we get a industry to move here is great for the success and the vitality of our community. When it's a green operation, something that's going to create renewable type jobs, I think that's great for us here. As far as I know, they have a few places picked out. They're all within the same vicinity. I think they're just working out the most feasible for them.
Independent Stave Company is a workplace of over 105 people in the area, but due to the increasing demand of bourbon and whiskey, the barrel makers have to increase production to keep up. With hundreds of jobs being created, this will serve as a huge local economic boost in Morehead.
I think it's going to be a win for everybody here, and it's a good, clean, renewable resource that we're using to make a Kentucky traditional material.
Company leaders hope to start on construction in early 2019 and open by 2021. For NewsCenter, Drew Spangler. Moorhead police say they are pursuing charges after they say a district judge was involved with a hit-and-run accident in March. Moorhead police say Judge Willie Roberts was involved in a minor crash on I-64 on March 10th. According to the woman Roberts allegedly hit, he left the scene after she told him she was going to get a police report. A child was also in the vehicle at the time. According to the police, both were taken to the hospital as precaution. Police say that they tracked Roberts' license plate number and found him at his residence. He was not taken to jail directly following the incident. Round County Attorney Cecil Watkins has now turned the case over to special prosecutor outside of Roberts' work area. Clark County Attorney Brian Thomas now handles the case. If convicted, Roberts faces up to 1 year in jail for leaving the scene of his accident. Now to a story that's happening 60 miles down the road at our neighboring university. The Board of Regents at Eastern Kentucky University has suspended several programs after they say they no longer have the funds to support them. The board met on Friday and announced the suspensions of 2 nursing programs, 2 health programs, deaf studies, American Sign Language studies, an art program, and minors in theater, religion, and chemistry, and individualized studies. The university also made the decision to cut the tennis team and marching band. The cuts also include 130 faculty cuts. Students currently in the programs beside marching band and tennis will be grandfathered in, but enrollment for future students in the programs will halt. The cutbacks also include closing the Danville campus and projects around campus. The next fiscal year for EKU begins on July 1st. Show off their strengths in this year's Eagle Warrior weightlifting competition. The competition features different lifting, including a deadlift and a bench press. The winner is decided based off calculations including the competitor's weight and how much they are able to lift. Although registration is already closed, you can watch the action tonight at 7 p.m. at the Recreational Wellness Center. Winner will take home a prize pack along with the title of Moorhead State Official Eagle Warrior. Ashland police have released the name of the suspect who is currently armed and dangerous. Frank Jolliffe Jr. is wanted for fleeing and wanted endangerment. Police say he's also wanted for questioning related to an attempted murder of an Ashland police officer. The Ashland police attempted to perform a traffic stop but ended up in a vehicle pursuit that was followed with an on-foot pursuit. Shots were fired at the pursuing officer during the chase. The officer was not harmed. No arrests have been made, and the Ashland Police Department is looking for any information regarding the suspect. A Moorhead State Craft Academy student was among 4 Kentucky high school students to win the 29th Annual Secretary of State Essay Contest. Craft Academy's Victoria Kelly Brunson of Somerset was honored when Kentucky Secretary of State Allison Lundergan Grimes recognized the 4 students at the ceremony at Rupp Arena during the Kentucky High School Basketball Sweet 16. Created in 1988, the Secretary of State Essay Contest serves to inspire students to be more active and informed students, with an emphasis on election-based issues. Each winner received a $1,000 cash scholarship. The wall President Donald Trump has promised Americans is now in the works. Trump has stated that he is floating around the idea of using the military budget to pay for the wall, which will be covered with the border of Mexico. Trump brought up the idea with House Paul Ryan last week, and the idea to use a military budget comes from the wall being based around national defense. Trump threatened to veto the omnibus spending bill that was proposed last week because the $25 billion budget for the wall wasn't included. Uber says they have suspended all of their self-driving vehicles after one of their vehicles was responsible for killing an Arizona woman. Police in Phoenix suburbs say the SUV struck a 49-year-old woman, Elaine Hertzberg, while she was walking on the outside of the crosswalk. The National Transport Safety Board says the team of specialists has traveled to the scene to study the crash and what led to it. Self-driving vehicles have been in Phoenix for months, and this is the first accident reported. Self-driving vehicles have also been driving in Toronto, Pittsburgh, and San Francisco. Uber expressed deep condolences to the victim's family and say that they are working with authorities during the investigation. 2 firefighters were killed while responding to a triple fatality highway crash in West Virginia late last week, and 2 other firefighters remain in the hospital. Assistant Fire Chief Michael Edwards and Lieutenant Thomas Crego were honored by over 50 people across the country with a wreath-laying ceremony. Edwards and Crego and 3 other firefighters of the Pratt Volunteer Fire Department were heading towards a wreck when their fire truck went off the road into a ditch, colliding with a rock wall. Currently, the crash is under investigation to identify the cause. Crego was a 15-year member of the department, and Edwards had given 25 years of his service. Now on to a jaw-dropping story. A Louisiana couple decided to do a gender reveal of their baby. However, the way they did it was quite different. Take a look. father, Mike Kleibert, is an alligator wrangler and a trainer who runs Kleibert Turtles and Alligator Farms. The alligator, is seen in the video, bit into a watermelon filled with a blue liquid to indicate the baby's gender is a male. Exciting gender reveals have been a fairly recent trend.